What's up, everybody? Ron Placone here, reporting for Status Coup. So I have long been saying that we will likely see the return of child labor before we see living wages in the contemporary United States. And I really want to be proven wrong on that one. I really want to be wrong about that. But sadly, so far, that's not been the case. So here's something. Child labor violations involving 388 minors at McDonald's uncovered since May. Now, we, of course, covered a story prior here on Status Coup where there were McDonald's franchises in the Pittsburgh area who were committing a ton of child labor violations. Here's a bunch of locations in Louisiana and Texas. So here's what's going on here in this article from the Tri-City Herald. Federal officials found more child labor violations at McDonald's restaurants after recently announcing 305 minors, including two 10-year-olds. 10-year-olds were working at franchise locations illegally. The most recent violations involve 83 minors at 16 McDonald's franchise locations in Louisiana and Texas, according to findings of the U.S. Department of Labor investigations that was shared in a July 25th news release. In Louisiana, McDonald's franchisee CLB Investments LLC had 72 minors, ages 14 and 15, working longer and later than legally allowed. Additionally, 3 employees under 16 were tasked with a job deemed dangerous for young workers operating a deep fryer, which is prohibited under federal law. These violations occurred at 12 McDonald's restaurants in Kenner, Jefferson, Metairie, and New Orleans, according to officials. In Texas, McDonald's franchise Marwen & Son LLC violated similar child labor restrictions at restaurants in Cedar Park, Georgetown, and Leander. The employer allowed 10 minors, ages 14 and 15, to work long and late hours in violation of federal law and had several additional young workers assigned to dangerous tasks like working a deep fryer. So, of course, the agency has assessed CLB Investments with a $56,106 fine and a $21,466 fine against the other LLC involved. And of course, they're saying this is not in line with our ethics and how we do things. Blah 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 blah. Now, here's the deal: bigger picture. Is it good that this investigation happened? Of course. Is it good that they are paying some kind of fine? Of course. But here's the reality: big picture. First of all, this fine is very little more than a slap on the wrist. $51,000, $24,000 some dollars. That's nothing. That's barely a slap on the wrist. Barely a slap on the wrist to these companies. And this doesn't address the underlying issue of what has gotten us to this place. We are living in a contemporary society where people work longer hours and more days than the robber barons did. We have typically less vacation time than medieval peasants had. Our salaries are less than those of the Great Depression by many metrics. And yet things are getting more and more expensive. Groceries per scale are way more expensive than they ever have been. There are food insecurities going on in this country. There are water insecurities going on in this country. And we have this work culture where you're just expected to give and give and give and give, and you're not expected to be paid a living wage. We have massive amounts of strikes in every industry, from education to the arts to labor and everything in between. And it has gotten to this point through 40 years and counting of neoliberalism experimentation that has gone, it's just completely broken because it doesn't work. It just doesn't freaking work. Never has, never will. It's a system in which the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Every time it's tried, it fails miserably. And eventually it gets to the point where the middle class is just non-existent anymore. I am an older millennial. I am just old enough to have lived through a time where the remnants of a strong middle class in this country was felt. The kind of overlap, the ripple effect of having a strong middle class I grew up with some of that. When I was a child, it was still a thing. It was already eroding by that point, but it still existed. Now that's completely gone. That is completely gone. There is no middle class in the United States. It doesn't exist anymore. There is just the working poor and the rich, and the gap is getting even bigger and bigger and bigger. I think about my own family. My dad is an academic. My mom was an administrative assistant. Something like that. And we had a middle class upbringing. Something like that is not likely to happen today. Academics these days, most of them are grossly underpaid adjuncts who are just barely scraping by. So it's like even just the middle class childhood that I had wouldn't be a possibility in today's society, most likely. And that's why you're seeing the return of child labor. It's because people are desperate. So it's like they're turning a blind eye to it. When there's a family situation where maybe everybody's freaking working and you actually need a kid to help bring in enough money to keep the lights on. Yeah, they're not even going to be paying attention. Is this kid working a deep fryer? Should this kid be a 10-year-old should not be working a job? What is happening? And yet you will see people in this very country that are apologists for such a thing. Well, it teaches them the value of hard work. They should be in school learning. So we're going to see more cases like this. And when you see stories like this, yeah, it's good that they got caught. Sure, that's better than nothing. But until we really address the underlying disease that is making this happen in our society, it's going to keep happening. It is going to keep happening. And I don't see any way out of this other than a general strike. Because, our politicians certainly aren't just going to do the right thing politically. That's not going to happen. It never has in this country. Certainly not going to happen now when we're in a situation even more dire than the Great Depression. So, general strike is pretty much the only way. And we're seeing it start to happen. We're seeing it happen. We're seeing more and more industries striking. Where I'm at here in Hollywood, the entire industry is shut down. Because people have reached their breaking point and people have realized they're taking away our ability to make a living. They're taking away our ability to have a career, and we have to dig our heels in the sand now and say no. And that's what needs to happen across all industries in this country. So that's why I say peace, love, and a general strike. And folks, of course, you can catch me out on the road. I'm going to be going to Scotland for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Any international Status Coup folks, show up. There have been Status Coup listeners at every show I've done so far this year, but this is going to be the big test. This is going to be the international test. So Edinburgh Fringe attendees, come hang out. My show runs from August 16th through 27th at 4 p.m. daily at the venue 32 Below in the Little Cellar. That's 4 p.m. daily, August 16th through 27th. It's part of the free Fringe, so you don't have to get tickets in advance. Just show up. But more information can be found at my website, ronplacone.com. And October 21st, I'm going to be back in my own neighborhood, San Pedro, California. I'm doing a comedy series at the Grand Annex. The first headliner, along with myself, is Stephanie Blum. That's going to be an amazing show. That's October 21st. You can get tickets at my website, ronplacone.com. And this is Ron Placone for Status Coup, signing out.